I think the biggest issue facing commercial real estate, which has always been a subject, especially for probably, I'd say, the past 2 years, is when is the market going to rebound? How quickly will that happen? And I think people are really waiting. I think the conversations that have been happening at the show are really not, when is it going to happen, but there's a lot more positive things being said where deals are being, actually coming together. Obviously not going gangbusters, certainly not like it was a couple years ago, but things still seem to be picking up and gaining momentum on top of itself.
Deal flow, I think, is one of the major challenges today. Certainly a lot of signals are pointing to banks shedding assets off their books, values crashing, values going down, and creating, generating a lot of deal flow for opportunistic buyers. And basically to create transaction volume would spurn again, kind of a buildup in prices, and it would be a good thing for the industry. That hasn't happened, and the lack of transaction flow, I think, has just kind of put a bottleneck around the industry, where there's a lot of capital that wants to be deployed, and it has to sit on the sidelines because there's not enough deals to go around.
Everybody is concerned about job growth and where job growth is going to come from. We lost several million jobs over the last year or so, and we need to just get back to even in order to get people working again and to get the economy and the real estate markets back in balance. The problem is nobody knows where that several million jobs is going to come from, what the source is going to be. So I think really job growth is the main concern. It drives demand for office space, industrial space, for housing. And until we see some major source of job growth, we could just be moving sideways for quite a while longer.
I think probably the biggest issue is when development will start to occur again, so when ground-up development will come back. And you will need stabilization in the capital markets for that to occur. You will need there to be demand for that to occur. So I think understanding the time frame for it so that the processes can get started to get entitlements on projects and to begin to secure capital for these projects.
Job creation, and job creation. Then after that, capital, being able to acquire capital. Obviously, there are opportunities to acquire capital to develop projects, but if there are no jobs being created in a real estate business, it's all about demand. So if you're not going to have the demand after you dig that hole, pour that foundation, and build that structure, then it's a bad recipe. So we need jobs.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about the economy and the challenges of getting financing for their projects. That directly impacts people's decisions about whether to pursue LEED certification or incorporate green strategies into their projects. I think people want to understand, what are the cost benefits of incorporating green features into their project. A lot of people are looking for what can make their projects different, how they can stand out.
The single biggest issue, I think, is when things are going to start happening again. We're commercial real estate developers, we're also consultants, and we've just found a large backlog of stuff waiting to happen. Whether it's development projects that have been shelved, whether it's acquisitions that can't happen because they can't get pried loose. And I think the general sense is everyone is trying to answer the question of when will things start to happen. I don't think anyone really knows that. There's a lot of speculation about when it's going to happen. Banks have to start to write things down, things have to get unthawed, unfrozen. And I think the kind of general sense about everyone is that until things start to move again, the industry isn't really going to be healthy. Transactions need to happen for our industry to kind of go, for it to kind of create work for people to do, whether it's financial work, valuation, development, architecture. Until those transactions start to move again, I think everyone is kind of stuck in the mud. So I think that's kind of the general sense, is people are just waiting for things to get going.
Crisis of confidence still, I would think. Nerves. I think the money is there, it's just not being let go yet. But that said, we as designers, as a particularly design-oriented architecture firm, as opposed to someone that does a lot of construction drawings, we do everything, but we're sort of leading indicators, and we cannot keep up with the requests for proposals at this point. So things are looking up for us, which means they're going to look up for everybody, I would think. A lot of that is international. But in general, we're very optimistic, especially the last quarter. We're hiring.
Well, I think a lot of what we've been facing in the last 2 years is just where is that optimism that was there? And how do we do what we used to do now? And I think you just have to rethink and not do what you used to do.